More often than not, defenses are the deciding factor in what actually wins you a week and what makes you cry alone in bed and lose a week. In this video, I'll give you every single defense ranked in my tiers of the defenses we can start, sit, and even ones you can get off the waiver wire. Hit that like button if you appreciate this kind of video and want to get it every single week. We will start in the S tier with none other than our number one defense, the Indianapolis Colts. Possibly could have got them on waivers. By now, the waivers are cleared and you probably cannot. They get their matchup against the Tennessee Titans. This offense in the Titans allows the number one most fantasy points to opposing defenses per week. Cam Ward is throwing an interception per game. He's fumbling. He's butterfingersing the ball through his hands. I mean, it just looks disgusting. He's getting a bunch of sacks. The offensive line sucks. The Colts defense is good in their own. Not much to talk about here. They are number one in the S tier, followed by the New England Patriots, also making it in the S tier here, which might be a little bit controversial, but they're getting one against the Cleveland Browns. Dillon Gabriel has not looked great. I know he had a couple stints of looking pretty decent, but again, his target rate to wide receivers as far as catchable targets, they're terrible. They don't have a ton of offensive weapons to really save them either, so the New England Patriots with Christian Gonzalez healthy should, number one, be able to take out Jerry Jeudy from this game. I am sitting Jerry Jeudy on all aspects because of that fact, and everybody else is not really going to be able to make many moves, and we know Quinshon Judkins is great, but this New England Patriots run defense is really, really good, better than their pass defense. They should be able to get a good amount of sacks on Dillon Gabriel, keep them to low scoring, and possibly get some interceptions as well. I have their ceiling at 11 fantasy points and a very safe floor at 7. Next up, we have the Atlanta Falcons in the S tier as well, getting the Miami Dolphins. If you look at Tua, you might question how he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. 100 yards, 12 completions, 0 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. That is atrocious. Now you get that against one of the best internal units in the Atlanta Falcons. This defense is great. They used a ton of draft capital to upgrade this defense. They're putting it together week after week. They're forcing turnovers. They're getting sacks. Everything is going right for this defense against an offense that everything is going wrong for. Very, very safe floor at 7 points and a ceiling up at 11 as well. Next up, dropping it down into the A tier, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. They are this high because we are likely not going to have Jaden Daniels in this matchup. Terry McLaurin may or may not play. Deebo Samuel may or may not play by the time I'm recording this video. So if all of these guys are out, the Kansas City Chiefs are a must-start option. Marcus Mariota has been serviceable, but nowhere near a quarterback we need to worry about because the Chiefs defense is not allowing a lot of points to running backs. They are decent at stopping the wide receivers and Trent McDuffie and all those corners and safeties as well. This is a defense we like, very safe at 6 points, but I guess a lower floor here at 10.2 because there is a chance that the Commanders' offense and scheme just does happen to work. Next up in the A tier, we have the Los Angeles Chargers getting one against the Minnesota Vikings. Now, this might be high for most people. I know a lot of people won't really agree with this, but the quarterback situation is terrible. We might get a quarterback starting that we have never even heard of. That is really good for this Chargers defense, who has had their up and down moments so far this year. A down one last week, but again, very good offense they played this week. The Minnesota Vikings, yes, they have playmakers in Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison is looking great, but with quarterback play that is subpar and probably will throw some interceptions, if not get sacked a million times by holding on to the ball for too long, the Los Angeles Chargers are a good one. A lower floor at 6 fantasy points, but again, a ceiling up towards 11. Next up, we have the Philadelphia Eagles getting one against the New York Giants. Another defense that may seem too high here because the Giants are doing so good, but this Eagles defense is absolutely imposing their will as far as a defensive line goes. Jalen Carter is felt. We know that to be true. Jackson Dart can run the ball. He can't escape those sacks. So he's not like a Joe Flacco to where if the pressure comes his way, he just has no choice but to get sacked because he can't run. With that, though, I do still think the Philadelphia Eagles should be able to impose some interceptions and some turnovers on Jackson Dart, who has been relatively boom or bust in his efficiency passing to his wide receivers. Again, you don't have a ton of great weapons without Malik Neighbors. Follow that with the Cincinnati Bengals. People might think this defense is way too high because we are notably remembering the Bengals have a terrible defense. Even week 1 and 2, this defense was at the bottom of our list. Now they get one against the New York Jets. Tyrod Taylor is slated to start this week, which honestly might be a good thing. Bad thing for this defense, but he might be better for the offense. You never know. But if we're not going to have Garrett Wilson, it's really not great. Like Josh Reynolds, Arian Smith, these wide receivers are not going to actually pose any issues for these corners for the Cincinnati Bengals that have been lackluster. And it's not like the offensive line for the Jets is good either, so we can expect sacks and we can expect interceptions, even if this Bengals defense hasn't generated a ton of those so far this year, followed by the San Francisco 49ers getting one against the Houston Texans. And it seems like any defense playing the Houston Texans is going to be somewhere in the top 10. This offensive line is terrible. Like, CJ Stroud has no time to pass. He can't let his routes develop downfield. So a guy like Nico Collins, who got a little bit banged up last week, just doesn't have as high of an upside. Because of that, the 49ers are actually playing pretty good defense with the players that they do have, considering the injuries they are dealing with. Houston Texans, with the holes in their offensive line, should have a very safe floor at 6.2 fantasy points, but their ceiling is going to be a little bit capped because, again, we do still have CJ Stroud on offense. Follow that with the Green Bay Packers getting their matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is two sides of a coin here where the Pittsburgh Steelers are actually playing better than their expected EPA per play and touchdown per drive. And then the Green Bay Packers have been playing decent, but not as good as a lot of people would chalk up the name value to be. I still do like this matchup. I still am not a Aaron Rodgers believer. The run game is going to have to get going for this Steelers team to generate any type of offense extended off of that. We have Michael Parsons. This Green Bay Packers defense is going to get some sacks. Again, Aaron Rodgers cannot run away from sacks, and he's also going to throw some interceptions. So far this year, he has thrown a decent amount for his passing attempts at least, and if they have to keep up with a good Packers offense, you can expect some more of those there, followed by the Bills defense. Now, this is one of the worst internal units so far on this list. They are really not doing a lot as far as stopping points allowed to opposing teams, stopping touchdowns allowed to opposing teams. But they get a matchup against the Carolina Panthers, who have Andy Dalton starting at quarterback with Bryce Young injured for this week. Now, it's the debate if that's a good or a bad thing as far as fantasy value goes for these Panthers wide receivers. But for fantasy football, it makes a very positive spot for the Buffalo Bills. We look at Andy Dalton's recent games that he's played when he has filled in for this Panthers team. He's averaging an interception thrown per game. He's not extremely efficient, and he does allow defenses to score a lot of points. Again, with the offensive line holes for the Panthers, they can generate some sacks. That's likely where they're going to get most of their fantasy points. I have their ceiling up at 10.1 fantasy points, but a bit of a safer floor in this matchup, followed by the Minnesota Vikings. This is a very, very good internal unit. We saw them struggle against the Eagles last week. I mean, Isaiah Rodgers, I was talking about him being able to lock up A.J. Brown. He did not do that, mostly because there was two main plays that he just busted coverage, and then A.J. Brown did great. Outside of that, Isaiah Rodgers is still very good in restricting fantasy points to wide receivers, and they're going to need that help against the Los Angeles Chargers, where we have Quentin Johnson, we have Ladd McConkey, we have Keenan Allen, we have Oronde Gadsden now coming in, being a top waiver ad and a top guy in routes run per game. So this Minnesota Vikings is going to have to step up. The reason they are this low, considering how good the defense talent-wise is because of this matchup. Again, I have their ceiling up at 11 points. It's very high, but their floor could be down at 5 depending on how good this Chargers team does play. The good news is they're dealing with a million injuries on that offensive line, so this defensive line for the Vikings should eat 4, maybe even 5 sacks on Justin Herbert, and we might have Hassan Haskins missing out this game too, which is going to hurt their pass blocking ability. Next up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers getting one against the New Orleans Saints. This defense, again, has been another one up and down so far this year, making do with what they have, but I do not think Spencer Rattler is going to have a good game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I expect him to throw an interception, something he hasn't really done too much so far this year. He did last week, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do have a pretty safe floor against a Saints team that isn't amazing, but a lower ceiling at 10 points, followed by the Houston Texans now getting theirs against the San Francisco 49ers. This ranking may change depending on who we have healthy and who we don't. These wide receivers are questionable every single week. The Texans are decent on defense. Again, like, they have a great pressure rate on the quarterback. They get a decent amount of sacks per game. They have a defensive-minded head coach and drafted some guys that are fine, but if they're not suspended or healthy, they should be okay. So the Houston Texans are here, followed by the Cleveland Browns. Again, this is a good internal defense, getting a really negative matchup against the New England Patriots, who are 5-2, rolling on offense with Drake May. Their offense is more or less fully healthy. The Cleveland Browns have Myles Garrett and this defensive line that should force sacks, but again, Drake May can evade those sacks. This is a defense that is good internally, might struggle in this one, followed by the Denver Broncos. If you need to start these teams, you can. I really don't love it, though, getting a matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. This team, every single week, is going to score 1 million points. The reason they are this high, again, is because their internal unit of the defense is good. Pat Surtain is going to be on CeeDee Lamb. We're not sitting CeeDee Lamb. A sneak peek to the wide receiver and cornerback matchup coming later this week. That video will be dropping. Make sure to have your post notifications on. He has one of the most negative matchups. Again, Pat Surtain is very good. He doesn't allow a lot of fantasy points per route run. You can consider starting the New York Jets, getting one against the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Flacco has been playing really, really good, so I don't necessarily advise for that. And if the offense can't move, you're putting a lot of reliance on the New York Jets. And if Sauce Gardner is out with a concussion, this is going to be even worse of a play. It's contingent on that, followed by the Giants and Ravens and Steelers if you do absolutely need them. But that's going to finish out this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one coming tomorrow. All glory to the man above.